What if you suddenly lost everything and had no one by your side? The temperature in the underground lab had jumped 7 degrees in the last 10 minutes, and no one was saying a word. Screens flickered with warnings, circuits buzzed, and the hum of something too powerful for this decade roared behind glass as Elon Musk stood with his arms crossed, staring at the machine that had already chewed through 5 different energy regulators that week. At the center of it all, Maya Brooks didn't blink. She adjusted the copper leads, checked the nitrogen seals, and gave the nod. Last test of the day, she whispered, more to herself than to anyone else. Then she flipped the switch. A sudden pulse surged across the room, lights stuttered, and a small explosion shot sparks into the upper rafters. The machine began to glow, not in red or orange, but a deep iridescent blue, as if the future was leaking through the seams of time. "Shut it down!" Someone yelled, but Maya froze, watching the reading spike in a way they hadn't before. The energy signature was stable, then unstable, then gone. The room fell into complete silence as the lights died. And then, backup generators kicked in, bathing the lab in dim yellow light and disbelief. The prototype had failed. Again. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? Elon didn't say a word. He looked at Maya for a long moment, nodded slightly, and walked out. The team followed, murmuring under their breath, exchanging glances that stung worse than insults. Alone in the lab, Maya clenched her jaw and stared at the shattered regulator on the floor. It had been the 6th one. She'd designed it herself. And it had lasted 12 seconds. That night, Maya sat in her apartment in Palo Alto, lights off, fingers wrapped around a mug she hadn't sipped from in hours. The news was already covering it. Elon's energy revolution delayed again, the banner read across the screen. She muted the TV and pulled her legs onto the couch, closing her eyes. For a moment, she was 12 again, sitting in the garage in Oak Ridge, Texas, grease on her arms and her father beside her, working on his old Pontiac. "If it breaks, it means you're pushing it hard enough," he used to say, smiling. "That's how you learn." He died a year later. Car accident. Her mom never drove again. Maya had spent most of her teenage years trying to fix things, microwaves, mopeds, her grades, but some things stayed broken. Still, that old Pontiac was in her memory like a warm blanket, a reminder that trial and error was part of the process. The next morning, back in the lab, the air was colder. The board wanted answers. Investors wanted deadlines. And Elon wanted results. Maya walked past her team, who barely made eye contact, and into the control room. She turned on the test footage, slowed it down frame by frame. There, between seconds 7 and 8, was a flicker. A moment the readings balanced. It was brief. But it was real. She leaned forward, heart racing, and rewound. There it was again. 11 milliseconds. A blink of perfect harmony. She bolted upright and ran to her bench, grabbing her notes, flipping through pages of circuitry sketches and energy flow charts. There was something they'd all missed. She stayed for hours, redrawing everything from scratch, while outside, the world moved on. Zoe, her roommate, texted. "Coming home tonight?" Maya ignored it. She couldn't leave. Not when she was this close. At 3:47 a.m., she found it. A feedback loop created when the power resistance dipped below a threshold none of their software even measured. It wasn't a failure. It was a window. A door, maybe. The next day, she called an emergency meeting. Most of the team had checked out emotionally. Some had already submitted applications to other labs. But when Maya showed them the footage and overlaid her calculations, the room shifted. "We didn't fail," she said. "We almost succeeded." For the first time in days, they listened. But hope, as she'd learned, was a fragile thing. That afternoon, someone leaked the lab's footage. Within hours, the internet exploded. Conspiracy theories. Memes. Doubts. A rival startup in Boston released a statement claiming they had similar tech, already successful. Maya felt like she'd been punched. In 1 week, they'd gone from the edge of a breakthrough to the edge of collapse. And no one seemed to care. Elon called her into his office. No aides. Just him and the silence. "You believe in this," he said, not asking. "More than anything," she replied. "Then fix it," he said. "We're out of time." And that was that. No pep talk. No sugarcoating. Just the truth. Back in the lab, Maya reviewed her options. They couldn't rebuild the prototype in time, not in California. Regulations, funding restrictions, and tech constraints would bog them down for weeks. But there was one site left, a forgotten facility in the Nevada desert, built for solar testing but abandoned after funding dried up. She proposed the move. The team resisted. But she insisted. Within 48 hours, Maya and 2 engineers were on a plane. They landed at a private airstrip near Henderson, drove 4 hours into the desert, and arrived at a rusted compound surrounded by sand and silence. The sun was brutal. The air, dry and biting. But it was freedom. It was possibility. They worked for 10 straight days. No interviews. No press. No interruptions. They built from scratch. By day 12, a new version of the prototype stood in the center of the main shed, humming with quiet potential. Maya stared at it the night before the test. Her father's words echoed again. "If it breaks, it means you're pushing it." She looked up at the stars, her eyes burning. Tomorrow would change everything. Or nothing. She pulled out her phone and opened a message from Zoe she hadn't read earlier. "Don't forget why you started." She smiled. Because sometimes, the world doesn't believe until you show them. And sometimes, even then, they won't. But that doesn't matter. What matters is the spark. And tomorrow, Maya intended to light it. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? When Maya Brooks was 8 years old, she built her first working radio from scraps she'd found in the school dumpster and a busted walkie-talkie her neighbor threw away. By the time she was 10, she could fix most things with a coat hanger, a roll of electrical tape, and a soldering gun. But none of that made middle school any easier. In Oak Ridge, Texas, intelligence wasn't currency, it was camouflage. Maya learned early to hide her curiosity, to act like she didn't understand when teachers asked questions, and to pretend that science didn't excite her. Her only refuge was in the garage, where her father, John Brooks, ran a modest auto repair shop and always welcomed her with a nod, a grin, and an open tool chest. It was in that oil-stained sanctuary that Maya's love of systems and circuits began to bloom. Her father was a mechanic by trade but a thinker by nature. "Every machine has a rhythm," he used to say as he adjusted the carburetor or tested a distributor cap. "You don't just fix things. You listen to them." Maya would sit on an overturned milk crate, watching his hands move with the grace of a pianist, asking questions about pistons, spark plugs, energy transfer. He never shushed her, never told her she was too young. If anything, he encouraged her to think beyond the parts. "What could this be if it weren't just a car?" he once asked, pointing to a muffler. She said, "A heater," and he laughed. "Yes, and maybe a weapon too. That's the thing about tools. Depends on how you use them." He died 2 years later. A drunk driver ran a red light while John was on his way to pick up a part in Dallas. The funeral was small, and Maya didn't cry in front of anyone. Her mother, Yvonne, shut down emotionally and never quite reopened. After the accident, the garage stayed locked. The Pontiac her father had loved began to rust behind the house, half covered with a tarp, the paint flaking in the sun. Maya stopped talking about machines at school. She kept her head down, focused on grades. She told herself she didn't miss the garage, but that was a lie. In high school, she got a scholarship to a STEM summer camp in Austin. It was the first time she met kids who liked the same things she did. It was also where she met Dr. Luis Hernandez, a visiting professor from Caltech who watched her build a working Li-ion battery array from recycled phones and broken tablets. "Where'd you learn this?" he asked. "My dad," she said. "In Texas?" "In our garage," she replied. He smiled, asked more questions, gave her his card. Years later, she would end up working under him at Stanford, and eventually follow him to the energy initiative Elon Musk had personally backed. It felt like fate. Except fate, she knew, wasn't real. Just timing and effort colliding with the right opportunities. In college, Maya made exactly 3 friends. One of them was Zoe Lambert, a journalism major with a knack for finding the beauty in chaos. They roomed together junior year and stayed close ever since. Zoe was the one person Maya could talk to about everything, not just circuits and energy grids, but grief, isolation, and ambition. Where Maya was introverted and driven, Zoe was expressive and spontaneous. She once dragged Maya to a slam poetry night off campus just so she'd remember the world had feelings. It worked. Maya hadn't laughed that hard in months. Then there was Tyler, her older brother, who used to carry her on his back when their mom worked double shifts and who taught her how to throw a spiral with a half-deflated football. But after their father's death, something in Tyler cracked. He got in fights. Dropped out of school. Blamed their mother for being emotionally absent, blamed Maya for acting like everything was fine. They fought one night when he came home drunk, said things they couldn't unsay, and he left the next morning without a word. That was 8 years ago. They hadn't spoken since. Maya still kept a photo of the 3 of them, her, Tyler, and their dad. Sitting on the hood of the Pontiac, smiles wide and arms wrapped around each other. She didn't look at it often, but when she did, it hurt in the best way. In the years that followed, Maya buried herself in work. She led renewable energy projects, got her name on patents before she turned 30, and became known in Silicon Valley as the girl who made lithium sexy. She hated that nickname. She hated most headlines, actually. But she knew how the game worked. Optics mattered. Funding followed headlines. So she played along, until this project. Until Elon's call. It was supposed to be the beginning of something revolutionary. A distributed energy system that could scale without the need for rare earth elements, using a method that mimicked the thermoregulation of photosynthetic organisms, basically, a machine that could harvest, regulate, and store clean power more efficiently than anything else on Earth. The first prototype, codenamed Helix, was Maya's brainchild. She worked with a hand-picked team of engineers, coders, chemists, and materials scientists, some of the best minds in the world. They had access to unlimited resources. They had Elon's full support. And for a while, they had momentum. Then came the setbacks. A faulty superconductor. A miscalculated thermal expansion rate. Internal disagreements about regulatory compliance. Investors started asking uncomfortable questions. Elon stayed confident, but his eyes grew harder. And through it all, Maya felt the crushing weight of expectation growing heavier by the hour. Still, she refused to back down. She knew the tech worked. She'd seen it. Felt it. That 11-millisecond window had changed everything. Now, in the desert, surrounded by silence and sun, she was closer than ever. But in her quiet moments, doubt crept in. What if the system couldn't stabilize? What if the rival startup beat them to it? What if all this sacrifice? Her friendships, her mental health, her life, led to nothing. At night, lying on a cot in a converted shipping container, she dreamed of her father's voice. Every machine has a rhythm, he'd say. You just have to learn how to listen. She wondered if he'd be proud. If he'd understand why she hadn't called Tyler. Why she still couldn't. There were emails in her draft folder, unsent. Apologies that felt too little, too late. And yet, with every setback, she heard that voice louder. Felt that same pull toward creation. Toward understanding. Toward legacy. She wasn't doing this for glory. She wasn't even doing it for Elon. She was doing it because she couldn't not do it. Because somewhere inside her, the girl on the milk crate still believed machines could change the world. The day before the desert test, Dr. Hernandez called to check in. He was one of the few who hadn't given up. You sure about this location? He asked. No oversight, no support systems. Exactly, she said. No red tape. Just results. He chuckled. You sound like Elon. God help me, she replied. And the team? He asked. Worn thin. But holding. And you? There was a long pause. Hopeful, she said finally. He didn't push further. Just said, call me after. No matter what happens. She promised she would. After the call, she walked out into the desert. The sky was bruised pink, stars already starting to show. She looked toward the horizon and imagined the energy grid she wanted to build, decentralized, affordable, sustainable. Something that could power forgotten towns, collapsing infrastructures, overwhelmed hospitals. Something that could change lives. Maybe even save them. She thought of the kids growing up in Oak Ridge now. Of families scraping by in places no one visited unless they were passing through. She thought of her mom, alone in that house, still refusing to drive. And she thought of Tyler, wherever he was. She whispered a promise to the wind. Tomorrow, we light it up. The wind didn't answer. But something in her shifted. The machine would either fail or fly. But she would not back down. The desert didn't care about innovation. It didn't care about ambition, prototypes, billionaires, or deadlines. It just was, dry, hot, unyielding. The morning of the test, the sun crept over the cracked earth like a slow-burning fuse, casting long shadows across the concrete slab where the Helix prototype stood waiting. Maya Brooks hadn't slept. She'd spent most of the night recalibrating the node sensors after a final systems check revealed a voltage anomaly that could have derailed everything. The other two engineers, Omar and Cassie, had passed out around 3 a.m., curled up on camping mats in the corner of the makeshift command room. Maya stayed up, pacing, adjusting parameters, running silent diagnostics on a backup laptop while whispering calculations under her breath like a prayer. There was no room for error. Not today. The Helix looked deceptively simple, a sleek, glass-and-graphene cylinder housed in a scaffold of alloy struts and flexible solar skins, its core pulsing with cold light like a heartbeat from another century. But beneath its surface was a system that defied conventional energy logic, a process modeled after biological energy transfer chains, capable of syncing to environmental feedback in real time. In other words, a power unit that could think. Not in a conscious way, but in a reactive, adaptive way that mimicked organic survival. And that was the terrifying part. No one fully understood what would happen when the unit reached full cycle. They'd simulated it, but simulations could only go so far. Today would be the first time they let it run uninterrupted. No throttles. No safeties. If it worked, it could mark the start of a new energy era. If it failed, well, failure wasn't something Maya let herself imagine anymore. As the sun climbed higher, the team emerged groggy but focused. Cassie set up the drone to capture aerial telemetry, while Omar triple-checked the data stream connections. Maya gave the pre-test briefing calmly, though her hands trembled slightly when she clipped the tablet to the central interface. She didn't mention the spike from last night. She didn't want to shake their confidence. At 8:47 a.m., she initiated the boot sequence. Powering Helix test unit at 20% capacity, she said aloud, not because anyone needed the reminder, but because routine was a shield against fear. The machine responded with a soft hum, the inner rings beginning to spin, aligning with the sun's position like a sunflower coming to life. The screens in the command room lit up with waveforms, thermal readings, and energy coefficients. 20% stabilized, Omar reported. Load nominal. Temperature increase within tolerance. Bumping to 40, Maya said. The Helix brightened, its glow intensifying as if it had taken a deep breath. Maya stared at the screen, watching the graph curve upward. So far, so good. 60. There was a slight fluctuation. A hesitation in the spin. Then it resumed, steadier than before. The adaptive regulator was working. 75. The readings began to spike. We're getting a phase shift in the coil resonance, Cassie warned. Maya stepped in, adjusted the magnetic balance, and watched the numbers level. Compensated, she said. Proceeding to 85. That was the moment the first tremor hit. It was subtle at first, just a low vibration under their feet, like a heavy truck passing by. But they were 4 hours from the nearest road. Cassie looked up. Was that? Seismic sensors showing minor local activity, Omar said. Not from us, Maya muttered. But her stomach clenched. The Helix pulsed again. 95%, she announced. The wind shifted. Static crackled over the comms. The machine was now drawing solar, ambient thermal, and residual kinetic energy from the environment in real time. It had reached full cycle. And then, for 11 perfect seconds, everything aligned. The graphs balanced. The hum smoothed into a constant tone. The prototype achieved an efficiency curve so high, it briefly registered as anomalous. Maya's breath caught in her throat. This was it. This was the proof. The moment her father used to talk about when the machine sings. We've stabilized, Omar whispered, eyes wide. This is happening. It's really, and then everything went wrong. A sharp crack echoed across the desert as one of the outer struts snapped backward, torn by an unseen force. The glow of the core surged, blue turning to white, heat bleeding off the surface in waves. Shut it down. Cassie yelled. Maya moved to the panel, but the screen blinked red, manual override disabled. The system had gone autonomous. Not rogue, just fully operational on its own logic. The Helix wasn't failing. It was evolving. It's responding to the seismic event, Maya realized. It's trying to compensate for ground instability. By overclocking. Omar shouted. It's drawing too much. It'll burn itself out. No, Maya said, scanning the readings. It's balancing the grid internally. Look, every spike has a dip. It's creating its own negative feedback loop. Then why is the frame buckling? Cassie snapped. Maya didn't answer. She was already sprinting toward the machine, tablet in hand, trying to manually patch the loop. She keyed in the override protocol, sweat pouring down her face as the heat intensified. The machine shuddered again. Something in the core flared. Her fingers flew across the tablet. One misstep and the entire coil could blow. The moment stretched, 5 seconds, 10. A final command line entered. A pause. Then a click. The core dimmed. The glow receded. The hum softened. The Helix powered down. Maya dropped to her knees in the dirt, coughing from the dust kicked up by the sudden silence. Behind her, the others rushed in, checking the machine, checking her. Are you okay? Omar asked. She nodded. Yeah. I'm okay. We're okay. What the hell was that? Cassie muttered. Maya looked up at the helix, which now stood like a sleeping giant, steam rising from its casing. That, she said quietly, was proof. Later, after they stabilized the site and double-checked the readings, the scope of what they'd done began to sink in. For 11 seconds, the helix had produced enough clean, self-regulated power to supply a mid-sized city. And it hadn't drawn from a fixed grid. It had adapted, harmonized, and self-corrected in real time. That wasn't just a breakthrough. That was a new paradigm. But the moment of celebration was short-lived. While Maya was cataloging the data, her secure tablet pinged. An alert. Someone had accessed their internal logs remotely. She traced the breach. It came from a server in Boston. Her heart sank. The rival startup. Somehow, they had tapped into the feed. Possibly through the drone. Possibly through someone on the inside. "We've been compromised," she told the team. "How bad?" Omar asked. "Bad," she said. "They know what we've done. Maybe not the whole picture, but enough." She didn't sleep that night. Instead, she wrote a full report, encrypted the raw data, and sent it to Dr. Hernandez with a single-line subject: "Secure this now." Then she locked the helix in an offline container, surrounded it with EM shielding, and posted a 24/7 watch rotation. Trust was no longer a luxury. By morning, news had already broken. An anonymous source leaked that a major milestone had been reached on an autonomous renewable energy project. Speculation exploded. Some said it was a hoax. Others pointed fingers at Elon. The rival company issued a statement the same day: they were close to their own adaptive energy system, and would reveal results soon. Maya threw her phone against the wall. Then she went for a walk, miles into the desert, until the sun set. She didn't cry. She just thought. About how fast hope could turn to fear. About how betrayal could feel like background noise when the stakes were this high. About how she needed a new plan. When she returned, Cassie handed her a folded piece of paper. "This came in through the satellite line. For you." Maya opened it slowly. It was a handwritten note. Short. No signature. Just 6 words: "He's alive. And he saw everything." Her blood ran cold. There was only one person who could have sent that. And only one person it could be about. Tyler. Maya stared at the note for a long time, her fingers trembling slightly as the desert wind whipped around her. The handwriting was unmistakable, tight, slanted, impatient. Tyler always wrote like he was trying to outrun the words. She hadn't seen that script in nearly a decade, hadn't heard his voice since that final fight outside their mom's kitchen, when he called her a sellout and she told him he'd never make anything of himself. Now he was alive, watching, and aware of what she had done. And someone wanted her to know. She folded the note carefully, tucked it into the inside pocket of her jacket, and walked back into the command center with a calm face and a stomach full of static. Inside, Cassie and Omar were reviewing the footage from the test, frame by frame, marking each spike and anomaly. "Still can't figure out how the seismic activity synced with the energy curve," Cassie murmured. "It's like it anticipated the stress before it happened." "Which shouldn't be possible," Omar added. "Not unless it had predictive input." Maya didn't answer. She sat at her console, brought up the core logs, and began running simulations again. But her mind wasn't on the data. It was on Tyler. On how he would even know about the helix. On who had sent the message. There were too many variables, and too little time. She needed clarity, and she needed it fast. That evening, she made a decision she'd avoided for years. She pulled out her private sat phone, dialed a number she hadn't used since grad school, and waited. "Hernandez," came the voice, groggy. "It's Maya." "I figured," he said. "What's going on?" "Tyler's alive." Silence. Then a quiet exhale. Are you sure? Someone sent me a note. In his handwriting. Said he saw everything. That's impossible. He disappeared years ago. You think I don't know that? She snapped, then caught herself. Sorry. It's just, this isn't random. And I think someone's using him to get to me. Why now? Because Helix worked. Because we proved something no one else has. And because that makes us a threat. Hernandez sighed. You think the rival startup's behind it? Maybe. Or someone worse. You need to get that unit out of Nevada. Where? Texas. The old launch facility outside Marfa. It's still operational. Elon's people have it in cold storage. Quiet, secure, and no one monitors it unless he tells them to. I'll move it tonight. What about the others? They'll follow if I ask. And Tyler? If he's really watching, he'll come find me. That night, Maya briefed the team. We're moving the Helix. Too much exposure here. Too many unknowns. Omar looked skeptical. You think we've been compromised? I know we have. And I think someone's watching us, maybe closer than we think. Cassie nodded grimly. I'll start packing the node crates. Keep the backup separate, Maya said. If anything goes missing, I want to know exactly what was taken and when. They worked all night, loading equipment into 3 autonomous haulers, securing the Helix unit in a carbon-lined transport pod with internal EMP shielding. By dawn, they were on the move, convoy crawling south through barren terrain under a blood-orange sky. Maya drove alone in the lead vehicle, eyes scanning the empty road, her mind drifting back to Tyler. She remembered their late-night drives as teenagers, sneaking out with a bag of popcorn and a gas station soda, talking about space, music, conspiracies. Tyler had always been the dreamer. She was the realist. He believed in aliens, secret government bunkers, free energy. She believed in thermodynamics. They'd fought about everything, until their father died. Then they didn't fight at all. Just drifted. The facility outside Marfa looked like something from a Cold War thriller, squat, concrete, sun-bleached, surrounded by rusted fencing and an expanse of empty desert. It took them 6 hours to unload and recalibrate the core systems inside the hangar. Once the Helix was stable and reconnected, Maya locked the control room and told the team to get some rest. Then she opened a hidden compartment in her backpack and pulled out the note again. She examined it under a light, looking for signs, fingerprints, ink inconsistencies, pressure marks. Nothing. Just those 6 words, written in a rush. She typed them into her laptop, ran them through analysis software. Nothing came up. No matches. No metadata. Whoever had delivered it knew how to cover their tracks. That evening, she stepped outside and walked to the edge of the compound, staring out at the horizon where the sun was melting into the hills. If you're out there, she whispered, then show up. I'm tired of ghosts. She didn't expect an answer. She didn't get one. But 2 hours later, an alert flashed on her tablet. An unauthorized vehicle had breached the perimeter gate. She raced to the console, pulled up the camera feed. A black motorcycle. Helmeted rider. No plates. The bike stopped near the south entrance. The rider dismounted, removed the helmet, and Maya's breath caught in her chest. Tyler. Older. Thinner. Bearded. But it was him. He looked directly into the camera, then held up a hand, 3 fingers extended. Their old signal from childhood. She bolted for the door. Outside, the desert was silent. He was leaning against the bike, arms crossed, like he'd just stopped by for a chat. She slowed as she approached, suddenly unsure. You really picked a hell of a way to say hi, she said. He smiled. You always liked drama. I thought you were dead. I was. For a while. What does that mean? It means I've seen things you wouldn't believe. And now I'm here because what you're building is going to change everything, and not everyone wants that. How do you know about Helix? I've been watching you. Since last year. Why now? Because they know. And they're coming. Who's they? Not the Boston startup. Bigger. Older. Quieter. Government. Worse. Private. Funded. International. Maya stared at him, unsure whether to laugh or run. And what do you want? To help. To keep you alive. And to finish what Dad started. Her heart skipped. What are you talking about? You really think Dad was just a mechanic? Tyler reached into his jacket and pulled out a battered notebook, their father's. The one Maya hadn't seen since the funeral. He handed it to her. She opened it slowly, recognizing the scribbles, the sketches of engines, generators, circuits. But in the middle, pages she'd never seen. Equations. Concepts. Designs that looked eerily familiar. He was working on this, Tyler said. Back then. A self-balancing energy loop. He never cracked it. But you did. How do you have this? He gave it to me. Told me to keep it safe. Said one day, you'd need it. Why didn't you tell me? Because I was angry. And lost. And scared. And then I got recruited. By who? The people I'm trying to protect you from. And why should I trust you now? Because I walked away from them. And because if you don't, Helix is going to disappear. Maya didn't speak. She just stood there, holding the notebook like it was a bomb. Finally, she nodded toward the compound. Come inside. That night, they sat in the control room, side by side, going through their father's notes, connecting dots, overlaying data. Tyler knew things she didn't, secrets, vulnerabilities, players behind the scenes. And Maya had something no one else did, a working prototype, a team that believed in her, and a legacy to protect. She didn't know where this was heading. But she knew the past had just collided with the future. And nothing would be the same again. The control room buzzed with low ambient light as Maya and Tyler worked into the night, poring over the notebook page by page, their father's meticulous scrawl unfolding like a map drawn across time. The diagrams were rough, but the concepts they outlined were years ahead of what Maya thought her father had been capable of. She kept flipping through, her eyes catching on half-erased formulas that looked eerily similar to her own notes from Helix's early development, feedback regulation equations, dual-state thermal balancing, and something else that made her stop mid-breath, an early sketch of a closed-loop energy transfer system labeled MX Core. She pointed to it. That's the foundational logic of the Helix's heart. We called ours the Helix Core, but this is the seed. Tyler nodded, quietly watching her face change from disbelief to reverence. He'd been working on it since before you were born. Before me, too. He told me once that machines could carry legacy better than people. I didn't understand it then, but now I do. He didn't want to build just engines, he wanted to build a future. Maya felt her throat tighten. Why didn't he tell me? Because you were the hope. He needed you focused. Not burdened. She closed the notebook gently. So who are the people you left? Tyler's jaw tightened. He hesitated before speaking. They call themselves Aeon. The name sent a shiver down her spine. She'd heard whispers, rumors in grad school, untraceable names in obscure research articles that vanished days after publication. I thought Aeon was just a myth. They're not. They're real. And they've been intercepting every major innovation in clean tech for the past 20 years. Not to kill it. To control it. If a discovery can't be bought, it gets buried. If it can be replicated, it gets weaponized. They've infiltrated corporations, research institutions, even think tanks. And now, they want Helix. Maya sat back, stunned. Why now? Because your demo worked. And because Helix can't just power cities, it can disarm economies. It threatens the global balance. Oil, gas, rare earth exports, every one of their revenue lines. They can't afford to let it scale. How do you know they're coming? Because I stole something from them before I disappeared. A list. Of every project they plan to suppress. Yours was at the top. Maya exhaled slowly. Why didn't you warn me earlier? Because I wasn't sure if I could trust you. Or if you'd even listen. She looked at him, her face softer now. Well, I'm listening. Outside, the desert night stretched quiet and endless, but Maya felt a storm brewing just beyond the silence. She turned back to the terminal and began encrypting their latest test results. We need to protect this data. Get it out of reach before they come. Tyler leaned over. Already on it. I've set up a cold chain relay that bounces through 4 satellite links and terminates in a vault server off the grid in Montana. It'll only respond to your biometric signature. Maya stared at him. Since when do you know how to build things like that? You weren't the only one Dad taught, he said with a slight grin. I just took a different path. The next morning, Cassie and Omar noticed the change in the air. The way Maya was moving faster, more focused. The urgency in her voice. The presence of Tyler. She introduced him with a vague explanation, logistics expert, late addition to the project, here to help. Cassie didn't push. Omar wasn't so subtle. You sure we're still the only ones watching this place? Maya nodded. We've taken extra precautions. I just don't like how fast the rumors are spreading, he said. There's talk online now. That we're building a machine that can suck energy out of the atmosphere like a parasite. People are scared. That's intentional, Tyler muttered from the back. Aeon's planting fear to justify intervention. Omar looked at him, puzzled. Sorry, who are you again? Maya stepped in. He's here to help keep us one step ahead. That's all you need to know. That afternoon, Maya and Tyler ran a diagnostic boot of the Helix core inside the Marfa facility. This time, they didn't push to full cycle. Instead, they monitored the new interface Tyler had suggested, one that used their father's original energy distribution algorithm. The result was smoother, more stable. Less spike, more flow. It was like watching a heart find its rhythm. It's singing, Maya whispered. Tyler nodded. Just like Dad said it would. They were still reviewing the output when the alert hit. An intrusion detected. North perimeter. A drone, cloaked, unauthorized, barely traceable, hovering just inside range. Maya rushed to the surveillance feed. Can we intercept it? Too fast, Tyler said, scanning the screen. But if we act now, we can spoof the transmission. They worked fast, rerouting signal paths, flooding the frequency with false data packages, essentially feeding the drone a digital hallucination. After 30 seconds, it veered away. It didn't get anything real, Tyler confirmed. But that won't be the last one. Maya stared at the empty space where the drone had been. We have to accelerate the schedule. She gathered the team that evening. We're going live in 48 hours, she announced. Cassie raised an eyebrow. You mean a public reveal? Maya nodded. A controlled one. A private stream to key stakeholders. Scientists. Engineers. Clean energy advocates. The right voices. Omar shook his head. That'll make us a bigger target. I know. But hiding it forever isn't an option. The only way to protect Helix is to make it too public to kill. Tyler watched her with a flicker of pride in his eyes. She was stepping into her father's shoes, whether she realized it or not. That night, Maya sat alone in the observation tower of the facility, watching the stars emerge. Tyler joined her in silence, 2 paper cups of instant coffee in his hands. He handed her one. "Do you remember that trip to Big Bend?" he asked after a long silence. She nodded. "When you tried to jump the canyon gap on your bike and ended up in a cactus? Dad laughed so hard he cried. We both thought you were dead." "I kinda was. For like 12 minutes. Maya smiled, then turned serious. "Why did you really disappear, Tyler?" He looked out at the dark. "Because I thought I was protecting you. I got involved with people who made me believe the world needed control more than it needed freedom. I thought if we could guide innovation, steer it, we could avoid chaos. But they weren't guiding. They were hoarding. And by the time I realized that, I was in too deep. So you ran." "I ran to survive. But I came back to make it right." "It's not too late," Maya said quietly. "But this time, we do it together." He clinked his coffee cup against hers. "Deal." The next morning, they began preparing for the stream, locking in satellite windows, encrypting the feed, lining up the live demo. Maya recorded a message to lead the event, speaking not as a CEO or engineer, but as a daughter, a sister, and a human being who wanted to leave the world better than she found it. "We built Helix to answer a question," she said into the camera. "What if energy wasn't a commodity? What if it was a right? What if no child had to do homework by candlelight, no hospital had to shut down from outages, no city had to ration power in the summer heat? This isn't just a machine. It's a promise." She ended the message with a quote from her father's journal. "In the end, the tool doesn't matter. It's the hands that wield it that make the future." When the video finished uploading to the queue, Maya leaned back, took a deep breath, and looked at Tyler. "We're out of hiding now." He nodded. "Let's see what the world does with the truth." The clock on the wall ticked louder than usual as the minutes counted down to the live stream. The air inside the control room at the Marfa facility was electric, thick with anticipation, nerves, and something else, fear. Maya paced back and forth in front of the master console while Cassie adjusted the lens of the main broadcast camera and Omar triple-checked the encryption protocols. Tyler stood near the back, silent, his eyes scanning every monitor with the focus of someone who'd survived long enough to know danger doesn't always announce itself. "Signal stabilized," Omar said. "Uplink holding strong. We're feeding through the Starlink mesh in case they try to jam it." "Good," Maya said, forcing her voice to stay calm. "Keep the latency under 6 seconds. I don't want any dead air." "Copy that. And monitor the perimeter for anything unusual. Drones, vans, heat signatures. Anything. On it." At precisely 11 a.m. Central, the stream went live. The holding screen disappeared, replaced by Maya's recorded message. Across the country, on secure feeds accessible only by private invite, thousands of screens lit up with her image, engineers, scientists, journalists, professors, policymakers, and a few select partners from the early funding round. The video ran for 4 minutes, ending with her father's quote. Then the feed transitioned to a live shot of the Helix. It stood under soft white lighting in the center of the hangar, surrounded by sensor arrays and feedback monitors, its surface gently pulsing with an inner glow. Maya stepped into frame. Her voice was steady. "Today we're going to show you what we've built. What we believe will be the beginning of a new age in energy generation. You're not just going to see data. You're going to see proof." In the control room, Tyler watched the live comment feed scroll faster than he could read. Words like fraud, fake, staged appeared alongside incredible, genius, and this can't be real. The world was watching. Maya triggered the sequence. The Helix powered up, slowly at first, rings rotating, core illuminating, heat levels measured. We are currently operating at 25%, Maya said into her mic. All energy output is being fed into a closed-loop battery grid powering the entire Marfa facility. That includes this stream, all internal systems, and 3 adjacent buildings. You are now witnessing a structure that, in theory, could replace most power stations under 5 megawatts. Then she bumped it to 50. The glow intensified. Sensor graphs on the live stream updated in real time, showing energy output, thermal efficiency, and adaptive balancing curves that trended steadily upward. The helix uses 3 sources: solar, ambient thermal, and residual kinetic. What makes it different isn't the inputs. It's the intelligence of how it manages them. The core is self-correcting, self-throttling, and requires no centralized control once initialized. She paused. And now we'll bring it to full. At 100%, the helix hummed with a tone so smooth it seemed musical, a resonant frequency that filled the hangar with vibration. Every graph leveled perfectly. No spikes. No overheating. No data gaps. For one shining moment, Maya felt like they had done it, not just technically, but emotionally. They had reached people. The chat feed exploded with excitement. Scientists asked for specs. News outlets requested interviews. A few shouted hoax again, but they were drowned out. Maya held her breath. She looked over at Omar. Stable. Solid. Best run yet. Cassie. Sound and video clean. Uplink still green. She nodded, turned back to the camera. This is what's possible when we stop asking permission to innovate. When we stop chasing profits and start designing for the planet. She opened her mouth to say more, when everything went black. Power, screens, lights, everything. Gone. A second later, emergency backups kicked in, dim red lights flickering to life, the whine of internal fans spinning up. Maya's heart thudded. What just happened? I lost all telemetry, Omar said. Hard kill on the main feed. Not a failure, this was external. Tyler's voice was calm but sharp. We've been breached. EM burst. Short range. They're here. Perimeter scan. Maya barked. Cassie brought it up. 2 vehicles approaching from the west. No markings. Military-style chassis. Fast. How long until they arrive? 5 minutes. Maybe less. Maya stared at the frozen core of the helix. It had entered autosleep. Still intact, still running internally. But the broadcast was dead. The world had seen enough to be curious, but not enough to believe. She turned to the team. Omar, secure the server banks. Pull all local data and transfer to the cold drive. Cassie, get the backups into transit cases. We're relocating. Tyler moved toward the transport bay. I'll prep the hauler. No, Maya said. We split it. What? We moved the helix separately from the data and the backups. Divide the risk. That's dangerous. So is staying here. Sirens flared on the perimeter system. They just breached the outer gate, Cassie said. 4 minutes. Maya reached for a lockbox beneath the desk, pulled out a drive and an old metal key. This gets plugged into the helix core. It tells it to reconfigure into transit mode. Once it's in, it locks until it hits a secure port. No one gets in without my code. What about you? Tyler asked. I'll stay. Delay them. That's suicide. I'm not giving them a clean handoff. Maya, go, she snapped. Take the helix and run. Get to the fallback site. Tyler's jaw clenched, but he nodded. He knew the look in her eyes. She wouldn't back down. He grabbed the drive, sprinted to the main floor, and slid it into the helix's access port. The machine reacted immediately, collapsing in on itself with a quiet hiss, its rings folding inward, its glow dimming to a soft pulse. Transit mode. Omar loaded it onto a shockproof transport sled while Cassie wheeled out the data crates. 30 seconds later, the three of them were in the back tunnel, disappearing into the desert. Maya watched them go, then locked the exit gate behind them. She turned off the safety alarms and walked back into the hangar. She didn't have a weapon. But she had time. A few minutes, maybe. She used them to wipe the remaining servers, burn the uplink routers, and trigger a magnetic sweep over the remaining drives. No intel would be left behind. When the front doors exploded inward, Maya stood in the center of the hangar, hands raised. 4 figures entered. Tactical gear, visors, rifles. Not military. Not police. Private. Aeon. Maya Brooks, the lead figure said. You've been busy. She didn't flinch. I think you have the wrong building. Cute. He stepped closer. Where is it? Where's what? The Helix. Never heard of it. We tracked the signal. Bad reception out here. We'll find it. Not before the world does. That stopped him. Just for a second. The implication settled in. The live stream. The audience. The witnesses. You don't understand what you've done, he said. Oh, I do, Maya replied. I made your job harder. He raised a hand, and something sharp jabbed her neck. An injector. Everything blurred, spun, tilted. She hit the ground, barely hearing the words, secure the room. Bring her. Then darkness. Darkness wasn't empty. It had weight. It had sound. A low, humming echo that pulsed like a distant heartbeat, lulling Maya in and out of something less like sleep and more like suspension. She blinked against the heavy fog in her mind, struggling to remember where she was, until flashes hit her like broken glass, the helix, the live stream, the breach, the needle. Her breath caught in her throat. She tried to move but found her wrists bound, her body strapped upright in a chair made of polished steel. The room was dim, sterile, and humming with hidden electronics. No windows. No clocks. Just artificial light and the sharp scent of ozone and disinfectant. Somewhere nearby, machinery clicked softly in rhythm. She's waking up, a voice said calmly. A door opened behind her. Footsteps. Then a man appeared in front of her, early 50s, sharply dressed, the kind of man who looked like he belonged at a Senate briefing or a biotech conference. His suit was charcoal gray, his expression neutral, but his eyes held an unnerving absence of emotion. Good morning, Ms. Brooks, he said. I trust your journey was uneventful. She stared at him, saying nothing. No need for hostility. You're not in danger. Not unless you make things unnecessarily complicated. Where am I? A private facility. Not far from Marfa. We couldn't let you stay out there, not after what you exposed. You mean the truth? The chaos, Ms. Brooks. You unleashed something we've worked very hard to contain. Because you want to control it. Profit from it. Bury it. No, he said, shaking his head slowly. Because the world isn't ready. Maya narrowed her eyes. People have said that about every breakthrough in history. Electricity. Flight. Vaccines. What they really mean is, they're not ready to lose power. The man chuckled quietly. Touché. But I'm not here to debate philosophy. I'm here to offer you a choice. Let me guess, work for you, or disappear. Not quite. We don't need to threaten you. We already have what we need. Her stomach turned cold. No, you don't. Don't we? He asked, smiling faintly. We have your logs. Your server nodes. Your infrastructure blueprints. We even have your team's biometric signatures on file now. You made it very easy. She fought the rising panic. Then why am I still alive? Because the helix is incomplete without you. It was always meant to be guided. Refined. You didn't just build it, you shaped it, tuned it, willed it into being. It's your fingerprint. And that makes you valuable. She leaned forward against her restraints. I'd rather burn it all than hand it to you. His smile faded. That's a shame. He turned and walked toward the door, pausing only to add, we'll give you time to reconsider. Then he was gone. The door hissed shut behind him. Maya sat in silence, her pulse hammering. She closed her eyes and forced herself to breathe slowly, methodically, counting backward from 100 like her mother had taught her when she was a child afraid of storms. She had to think. They might have copies, but they didn't have the helix core. That was still with Tyler. And she'd hard-locked it with her key. Unless they had her biometric data and the key, she froze. The key. Had it been on her? She couldn't remember. Everything had happened so fast. And if they got it, no. She had hidden it. Not on her body. She'd handed it to Tyler just before they separated. Use this if I don't make it out. He had it. She prayed he still did. Somewhere far away, Tyler drove through a dry riverbed in an all-terrain hauler with the helix locked in the containment chamber behind him, Cassie monitoring perimeter signals from a cracked laptop and Omar asleep in the back seat, his face smudged with dirt and exhaustion. The desert night stretched endlessly around them, painted in silver moonlight and dust. Any drones? Tyler asked. No pings in the last 6 hours. We may have shaken them. Don't get comfortable. Where are we even going? Fallback site. Old mining lab in Arizona. Solar powered. Completely dark online. Maya said New Mexico. She didn't expect to be taken. Cassie looked at him sideways. You think she's alive? Tyler hesitated. I think they need her. And that buys us time. And if they have the key? They don't. He reached into his jacket and pulled out the small, cold titanium sliver Maya had given him. The access key. Her biometric data was encoded into it, double redundant. Without it, the helix couldn't open. Without her, it couldn't be activated. It was brilliant. And dangerous. They drove on. Back in the facility, Maya spent hours, or maybe days, alone. The lights never dimmed. There were no clocks, no sense of time. Meals came through a small hatch. No human contact. Just silence and the distant hum of servers. Then, one day, the door opened again. A new figure entered. A woman this time. Tall, dark-skinned, early 40s, dressed in simple clothes. She didn't speak at first. Just pulled up a chair and Saturday, you don't know me, she said eventually, but I've followed your work for years. And now you're part of the team that kidnapped me? Maya asked. Not exactly. I was recruited by Aeon 5 years ago. Thought I was joining a research collective. Didn't realize I was signing up for control. Then why stay? Because sometimes, the only way to burn the house down is from the inside. Maya looked at her, skeptical. You want me to believe you're a double agent? No. I want you to believe that not everyone in this building agrees with what's happening. And some of us want to see Helix fly. You know where it is? No. But I know they haven't cracked it. And I know they're running out of patience. What's your angle? My name is Dr. Simone Ayers. I was a theoretical systems physicist before I was a ghost. You and I have more in common than you think. Then help me get out of here. Simone smiled faintly. That's the idea. But we do it smart. Slow. They'll move you soon, to a more secure site. We have a narrow window. You'll get a signal. When you see it, be ready. She stood up, walked to the door, then paused. You gave them hope, Maya. Don't let them turn it into fear. Then she was gone. Maya sat there, heart racing, mind spinning. Was it real? Could she trust Simone? Or was it another manipulation? She couldn't know. But she had to believe in something. Hope was a better fuel than fear. 2 nights later, during a staged medical checkup, the signal came. A sharp buzz from the wall panel. 2 long, 1 short. Morse. She remembered it from her dad's old notes. It was time. The room went dark. Alarms sounded outside. Doors slammed. Shouts echoed. Then a hiss, the door opening. Simone rushed in, tossed her a small handheld device. EMP scrambler. Use it on the nearest console. Now. Maya fumbled with the restraints, managed to free herself, and slammed the device against the wall panel. A spark shot out. The room flickered. Simone grabbed her arm. Run. They sprinted through a narrow corridor, alarms howling behind them. Simone led her down a metal stairwell, past a server room, through a reinforced access tunnel. Ahead, a door stood open, light pouring in. A small van waited outside, engine running. Maya didn't look back. She dove in. Simone followed. The van peeled away, tires skidding on gravel. Behind them, the compound erupted in confusion. Where are we going? Maya shouted. Simone looked at her with fire in her eyes. To finish what you started. Do we have the helix? No. But you will. If your brother is half as smart as you are, he's already 1 step ahead. Maya leaned back, heart pounding, every nerve on fire. She was out. But it was only the beginning. The real war hadn't even started. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? The van rattled down a gravel road under the cover of pre-dawn darkness, its headlights punching through swirling dust and the low groan of the engine rattling Maya's bones. Simone Ayres sat in the passenger seat, eyes locked on the looming mountains ahead. I'm taking you to a safe house, she said quietly. It's remote. It'll give us time to reconnect with your team. Maya nodded, clutching the small EMP scrambler Simone had tossed her. The weight of it in her pocket felt both comforting and terrifying. She wondered where Tyler and Cassie were, if Omar was conscious, if the helix was safe, or moving again without her. They drove in silence for nearly an hour. Outside, the desert gave way to scrubland and twisted juniper. At last, Simone slowed as they approached a wooden gate surrounding a compound of aged metal buildings, solar panels on the roofs, antennas, and silence. This was an old mineral research site, Simone said. Abandoned 10 years ago. I cleared a few sensors and bug sweeps, but it's not perfect. Better than the alternative, Maya replied. Simone parked and killed the engine. They stepped out into crisp, cool air. Maya could smell pine. It felt like stepping into another world. Simone led her inside, where Omar and Cassie were already waiting in the main room, looking drained but alive. Omar slid to his feet and rushed toward Maya. Thank God, he gasped. Cassie hugged her next. Tyler stood a few paces away, rifling through the containment pod they'd reactivated with his biometric key. You okay? He asked softly. They knocked me unconscious, but Simone rescued me. Maya looked at Simone. Thank you. Simone simply nodded, then stepped back and let them speak. They crowded around the pod. Helix glowed faintly in transit mode. We prepped it for transit again, Tyler said. We're ready to move. Where to? Maya asked. Our next site is a decommissioned rail bunker near the Colorado border, Tyler replied. Underground. Shielded. No one will detect heat signature or signal. Simone added, we can start running decentralized tests from there. Rebuild momentum, connect to local grids, power critical infrastructure. We'll flood the region with controlled demonstrations. Maya swallowed. What about the broadcast? Omar asked. They'll expect follow-up. We need more data, more live proof. Tyler nodded. We can stream one site at a time next week, starting with a rural hospital in New Mexico. If Helix can keep their backup generator offline for 24 hours, that's a story. And if Aeon tries to interfere? Maya asked. Simone leaned forward. We'll be ready. This compound has EMP shielding, redundant power, local scouts monitoring traffic, and nearby hills for drone blind spots. We stay off-grid until we need to act. Maya exhaled. For the first time, she felt a fragile calm. They moved quickly. Over the next 48 hours, they configured Helix for underground activation, encrypted streams, and smuggled satellite uplinks masked as weather data. Maya and Tyler worked side by side, stitching together their father's notebook logic with the Helix core. Their synergy felt natural, she provided structure, he improvised the protective layers. Cassie coordinated logistics. Omar handled remote communications. Simone wrote code to scramble any unwanted digital trace. When activation day arrived, they gathered in the dim rail bunker lit only by Helix's inner glow and laptop screens. Cassie initiated the stream. A map of the New Mexico hospital appeared. Maya spoke softly into the mic, we're powering you with Helix. We expect no dropouts over the next 24 hours. They began the startup sequence. The core hummed, then glowed stronger, adaptive regulators kicking in as sensors fed data. Maya watched the feeds, hospital power use was steady, backup generators offline. The facility lights, scanners, HVAC systems, uninterrupted. She swallowed, wondering if the connection held. Minutes passed, then hours. Energy readings remained consistent. Staff at the hospital sent text confirmations, lights green, or running, ICU stable. Words she could hear, but the world couldn't, yet. Around midnight, an alert pinged, external drone ping, 1 kilometer northwest. Cassie frowned. Scanning. Drones not armed, but it's sniffing traffic. Simone tapped keys. Hacking feed. Will loop false signature. Tyler locked eyes with Maya. Ready? She nodded. Let's do it live. The stream switched to drone's eye view, real-time footage from hospital's rooftop cam. Light steady. No drone interference. The world saw proof. Tweets exploded. Newsrooms lit up. The phrase, Helix-powered hospital, began trending. They watched until dawn. Then, when the stream ended, there was applause, digital and private. Tyler exhaled. We did it. But before they could celebrate, the monitors glowed red with emergency warnings. Energy spike. Thermal core at 112%. Maya rushed to the console. Throttle it down. The Helix responded, pulsing as it throttled back. Sensors stabilized. But everyone held their breath. System normalizing, Omar said. But that spike shouldn't have happened. Maya frowned. I thought the adaptive loop was tighter now. Simone stared. Either the environment changed, or someone interfered. Tyler checked drone logs. No activity here. Maya shook her head. It's too precise. That spike, locked to exact cycle time. Someone spoofing from inside the bunker. Cassie whispered. Maya's heart pounded. Find out who has access logs. They probed every terminal. Isolation doors. Access keys. No unauthorized entries. Maya closed her eyes, her mind racing. But Terracom satellite uplink logs show an external burst time to cycle. Same as at Marfa. Simone's eyes widened. They found a way to reach through to us. Anxiety rippled through the bunker. Do they have a back door in the uplink? Omar asked. Maybe. Maya blinked. Or they're using Helix's own signal to modulate frequency remotely. Tyler finished. To disrupt the cycle. Maya looked at them all, deadly calm. They're not just trying to steal it, they're trying to destroy our credibility. And maybe kill the unit. What do we do? Cassie asked. We fight smarter. Maya moved to the core panel. Activate manual override. Lock adaptive loop to Dad's original algorithm. Risky, Simone said. But no worse than being compromised. Maya initiated the switch. Lights dimmed. Rings slowed, then glowed with a more human heartbeat. A rhythm based on their father's first sketch. The core stabilized, thermostats slowly dropped to normal. The red warnings vanished. Relief washed over the group. We're good, Maya confirmed. Now let's secure the uplink, mask it completely. They worked until sunset. When the final firewall was locked, Maya leaned against the console, exhaustion and triumph warring in her chest. Tomorrow we do a third site, maybe a school. But first, we celebrate this win. Behind these walls, we still get to choose what tomorrow looks like. Simone smiled. To hope. Maya closed her eyes, letting exhaustion wash in. They had momentum. They had proof. They had Helix. But they also had enemies smarter than any lab protocol. And the desert night whispered a warning, this was only the beginning. The sun rose over the Colorado rail bunker casting long shadows on the cracked concrete floor, and Maya sat cross-legged on the cold metal platform beside the Helix core, her eyes tracing the gentle pulse of blue light as it breathed with quiet energy. Around her, the team stirred to life, Cassie already poring over data streams, Omar reviewing encrypted messages from the outside world, and Tyler methodically calibrating the adaptive controls. The air was thick with anticipation and exhaustion, but there was no time to waste. The successful New Mexico hospital test had unleashed a tidal wave of public interest and government scrutiny. News outlets buzzed with excitement, tech forums lit up with speculation, and whispers of Aeon's shadowy moves grew louder. Maya knew the eyes watching them were no longer just passive observers, they were predators circling closer. We need to move fast, Maya said, breaking the silence. The next demonstration has to be flawless, and this time it's going to reach millions. Simone nodded, stepping into the circle. Our plan to power the school in Colorado Springs is ready. We've set up encrypted uplinks, drone coverage for live feed, and local community support lined up. But Aeon's interference could escalate. Tyler glanced at the schematics on his tablet. The bunker's defenses held, but their attacks will get more sophisticated. We're lucky this time. Omar added, and the political heat? It's rising fast. Senators are calling for investigations, some demanding the program be shut down before it even starts. Maya felt the weight of the moment pressing on her chest. They're scared. Power shifts always scare those in control. She looked at her team, the ragtag group forged by shared urgency and the promise of a future rewritten. But we're not backing down. Preparations consumed the day. Maya and Tyler worked side by side to configure the Helix core to handle the extended load of a larger facility, a public school with a sprawling campus and hundreds of students. Cassie coordinated communications, carefully managing local volunteers who were sworn to secrecy but desperate to be part of the change. Omar ran interference on social media, countering disinformation campaigns and rallying grassroots support. Simone dove into code, building new layers of security to guard against both cyber and physical attacks. As night fell, Maya felt the familiar knot of tension tighten in her stomach. This wasn't just technology. It was a battle for the future, for the lives of everyday Americans who depended on reliable power to keep their schools open, their hospitals running, their communities thriving. At the launch moment, the bunker was a hive of controlled chaos. Screens flickered with data, drones hovered quietly on encrypted frequencies, and the helix core thrummed with steady light. Maya took the microphone, her voice steady despite the pounding in her chest. This is Maya Brooks. Today, we are powering a public school in Colorado Springs with Helix. For the next 36 hours, there will be no outages. No blackouts. Only light, heat, and hope. The stream went live, and within moments, messages flooded in, parents checking in, teachers sending updates, students tweeting in disbelief that their school was running purely on experimental technology. But the victory was short-lived. Just 2 hours into the demonstration, alarms blared throughout the bunker. External intrusion detected. Cassie shouted, fingers flying over the keyboard. Drone swarm incoming. Unidentified, hostile. Simone cursed under her breath. They're escalating. Get ready for electronic warfare. Maya's heart raced. She grabbed the console, initiating emergency protocols. Activate countermeasures. Deploy drone jammers. The bunker shook as drones buzzed overhead, signal jammers sparking interference in waves. Outside, the desert night was alive with a storm of technology and intent. Maya watched the live feeds from their drone network, dozens of small craft swarming like locusts. They want to silence us, she whispered. Tyler stepped beside her. Not on our watch. The battle wasn't just digital, it was physical. As the drone swarm pressed closer, a sharp crack sounded from above. A missile streaked down, striking the bunker's outer wall with a thunderous explosion. Dust and debris rained inside. Maya was thrown to the floor, ears ringing. Status, she gasped. Omar scrambled to assess damage. Outer wall breached. Structural integrity compromised but core safe, for now. Simone's hands trembled as she locked down systems. They're trying to break us, piece by piece. Maya pulled herself up, blood trickling from a cut on her forehead. We hold. We broadcast. We survive. The team redoubled their efforts, routing power through backup generators, restoring data links, and deploying counter-drone lasers salvaged from old military contracts. Minutes stretched into hours in a blur of urgency and adrenaline. Then, just as hope threatened to falter, a new message arrived on their secure channel. It was from an anonymous source inside Aeon, encoded with a single phrase, "The fall of one will not stop the rise of many." Maya's mind reeled. Someone within their enemies' ranks was reaching out. Who? She whispered. Simone shook her head. I don't know. But this changes everything. Fueled by renewed determination, the team pushed through the night, keeping the stream alive despite the attacks. Public support surged, fueled by the drama and the defiance. Comments flooded in, urging them onward, sharing their story across platforms. By dawn, the drone swarm had thinned, some craft disabled, others retreating. The bunker's damage was serious but not fatal. Maya leaned against the console, breathless and battered, yet unbroken. We made it, she said. But the war has just begun. Tyler looked out the window toward the rising sun. They'll be back. With more firepower, more resources. Then we need more allies, Maya said firmly. We need to take this beyond the desert. Simone nodded. We start building a coalition, scientists, engineers, activists, even politicians willing to fight for change. Omar cracked a small smile. Sounds like a revolution. It is, Maya said. A revolution powered by light. As the bunker settled into tense quiet, Maya's thoughts drifted to her father's original vision, a future where energy was abundant, free, and sustainable. She clenched her fists. Aeon's grip on the energy industry was a monster fueled by fear and greed, but she was determined to dismantle it piece by piece. She looked around at her team, flawed, human, but fiercely committed. This was no longer just a project. It was a movement. The Helix wasn't just a machine. It was a promise. A beacon in the darkness that refused to be extinguished. And as long as they stood together, Maya knew the future was theirs to shape. The movement was growing faster than Maya had anticipated. Overnight, the Helix demonstrations became a symbol of resistance, innovation, and hope. The team had barely recovered from the Colorado bunker attack when new messages flooded in, volunteers offering help, independent engineers sharing blueprints, journalists hungry for the inside story. Maya realized their fight was no longer confined to hidden bunkers or underground labs, it had spilled into the public arena with unstoppable force. At the center of it all stood Helix, the device born from her father's dreams and now charged with disrupting an entire industry. She spent hours poring over incoming data and coordinating with allies across multiple states. Simone developed new encryption methods while Tyler upgraded the core's efficiency, squeezing more power out of fewer resources. Omar worked tirelessly to create decentralized networks so no single failure could bring them down. The scale was growing exponentially, but so was Aeon's fury. Government regulators backed by Aeon lawyers issued cease and desist orders, citing untested technology and safety concerns. Corporate media launched smear campaigns accusing the team of reckless endangerment. Even some politicians distanced themselves, unwilling to cross the powerful energy lobby. Maya felt the pressure mounting, but the grassroots response surprised everyone. Communities whose power had been unstable or outrageously expensive embraced Helix demonstrations with open arms. Teachers reported warmer classrooms, hospital staff praised uninterrupted emergency systems, and local business owners credited Helix for keeping their shops open during storms. The narrative was shifting. At a rally in Austin, Texas, Maya spoke before a crowd of thousands, the energy palpable and electric. "We're not just inventing technology," she said. "We're inventing a future where no family fears the dark, no child misses a lesson, and no hospital loses a heartbeat. Helix is our promise to America, clean, reliable energy for all." The crowd erupted in cheers, some waving homemade signs bearing the Helix symbol, a stylized blue flame glowing with hope. But behind the scenes, Aeon's retaliation escalated. Cyber attacks targeted Helix control centers, attempting to corrupt data streams and destabilize systems. Supply chains for critical components were disrupted by mysterious shipments held in customs. Even personal threats reached the team, forcing increased security and secrecy. Maya bore the brunt of it. Her home was broken into twice, nothing stolen but a clear message left behind, a black card with the word "Stop" printed in bold letters. She ignored it. Instead, she channeled fear into action, rallying her team and expanding their network. Then, one evening, a coded message arrived from the anonymous Aeon insider, cryptic but urgent: "Meet at the crossroads. Midnight. Trust no one but the future." Maya debated for hours, weighing risk against opportunity. Could she trust this shadow from the enemy's camp? Was it a trap? But the chance to gain insight into Aeon's operations was too valuable to ignore. At midnight, Maya drove alone to an abandoned crossroads outside Denver, the desert air biting cold and the sky clear with stars. Her heart thundered as she scanned the shadows, waiting. A figure emerged, tall, cloaked, voice disguised by a modulator. "You don't know me," the figure said. "But I know you. Aeon is planning a shutdown of all decentralized energy experiments. They have a new weapon, something that could fry every Helix core remotely." Maya's breath caught. "How?" The figure hesitated. "They've developed a targeted EMP device with satellite guidance. It can reach any Helix unit and disable it permanently." Maya's mind raced. When? Within weeks. They've already tested it on prototypes in Nevada. You must prepare. What do you want in return? Only that you survive. That you see this through. Before Maya could ask more, the figure vanished into the night. The warning hung heavy in her mind as she returned to the bunker. She gathered her team and shared everything. We need to evolve. Helix must become immune. We have no choice. Over the next days, the team worked feverishly. Tyler redesigned shielding with new materials, Simone coded adaptive firewalls into the system, and Omar coordinated emergency protocols to isolate affected units instantly. Maya pushed public support harder, urging communities to prepare for disruption but hold firm. Then, one morning, the worst happened. Alarms screamed through the bunker. EMP detected. Cassie yelled. Helix cores across 3 states are offline. Maya stared at the monitors, black screens, lifeless cores. We've been hit, Tyler said grimly. They struck faster than we expected. Panic threatened to overwhelm them. Damage control. Maya commanded. Deploy manual overrides. Switch to backup cores. For hours, they scrambled to revive as many units as possible. The losses were significant but not total. Maya refused to let despair settle in. This is a setback, not the end, she said. Helix is still alive. In the days following the attack, Maya's team uncovered evidence that the EMP was launched from a classified Aeon facility deep in Nevada. It was a reminder that Aeon had resources no grassroots movement could match. But the attack also galvanized the public. Communities rallied in solidarity, repairing Helix units themselves, sharing knowledge and parts. The movement had become bigger than any one person or invention. It was a shared fight for a better future. Then, in a surprise twist, the anonymous insider returned, this time with detailed plans to dismantle Aeon's EMP weapon from within. Working together, the insider and the Helix team crafted a countermeasure, an energy pulse shield designed to absorb and neutralize EMP blasts. It was risky, untested technology, but Maya saw no alternative. The day came to test the shield on an active Helix core powering a rural hospital in Arizona. The nation watched as the team initiated the shield. Moments later, a barrage of EMP signals hit the core. Screens flickered, then stabilized. The hospital lights stayed on. Machines hummed steadily. The shield held. Victory rippled across social media and news broadcasts worldwide. Aeon's grip had been challenged and weakened, but the battle was far from over. Maya stood before her team, exhausted but triumphant. This is more than technology, she said. It's a testament to what people can achieve when they refuse to accept limits. The future is ours to build. And with that, Helix moved beyond being a mere invention, it became a symbol of resilience, community, and the relentless pursuit of progress. The fight for America's energy future had just entered a new chapter, and Maya was ready to lead it. The momentum was undeniable. After the successful activation of the EMP shield, Maya and her team found themselves at the center of a nationwide movement that transcended technology. It was a fight for the future itself. Every day brought new challenges, new alliances, and new battles. Yet, beneath the surface of progress, Maya sensed a deeper tension, a reckoning that would force her to confront not only Aeon's power but her own convictions. As Helix installations spread across towns and cities, Maya received an invitation that surprised her, a summit in Washington, D.C. Hosted by a bipartisan group of lawmakers willing to hear her story and discuss the future of energy policy. It was a rare opportunity, but one fraught with political landmines. She debated bringing the whole team but decided to attend alone, knowing the stakes were high. Arriving in the capital, Maya felt the weight of centuries-old institutions and power structures that Helix threatened to disrupt. At the summit, she faced a packed room of skeptical politicians, lobbyists, and industry executives, many of whom viewed Helix as a dangerous disruption to the status quo. Maya's opening remarks were clear and impassioned. What we're building with Helix is not just a new energy source. It's a lifeline for communities ignored by outdated systems. We're here to prove that innovation and sustainability can go hand in hand. Questions came quickly, some hostile, some curious. A prominent senator from a coal state challenged her, "How can you guarantee safety and reliability with a technology that's barely tested at scale? What about job losses in traditional energy sectors?" Maya replied with measured confidence, "Helix doesn't seek to eliminate jobs, it aims to transform them. We envision retraining programs, new industries, and economic growth driven by clean energy. The safety of Helix has been proven in multiple demonstrations under harsh conditions." Despite her words, the opposition was clear. Behind closed doors, lobbying efforts intensified to block Helix's expansion, leveraging political influence and media campaigns to sow doubt. Maya knew that winning public support wasn't enough, they needed allies inside the system. After the summit, Maya met privately with a young congresswoman named Elena Ortiz, whose district had suffered from pollution and energy poverty for decades. Elena's passion for social justice and environmental reform resonated deeply. "We need to fight together," Elena said. "Helix could be the answer my community's been waiting for, but we need resources and protection against the industry's backlash." Their partnership grew quickly, merging grassroots activism with legislative strategy. Maya's team expanded to include policy experts and community organizers, building a coalition that blended science with social impact. Meanwhile, back in the field, Helix technology advanced rapidly. Tyler spearheaded efforts to miniaturize the core, making portable versions that could power homes and even electric vehicles. Simone developed AI algorithms to optimize energy distribution in real time, reducing waste and increasing efficiency. Omar led outreach programs in underserved areas, training local technicians and empowering residents to maintain their own energy sources. These innovations created a ripple effect. Small towns once plagued by unreliable grids experienced new economic vitality. Schools stayed open during storms, clinics operated continuously, and families saved on electricity bills. The message spread: Helix was more than invention, it was liberation. But AEON's resistance was relentless. Coordinated campaigns flooded social media with misinformation, painting Helix as unsafe and unproven. Some sabotage attempts disrupted shipments and installations. Maya's team endured cyber attacks, legal battles, and public smear campaigns that tested their resolve. During a late-night strategy session, Omar voiced what everyone felt. "They're trying to break us, not just the technology but our spirit. How do we keep going?" Maya looked around the room, tired but unyielding. "Because this isn't just about us. It's about every person who deserves a chance at a better life. We keep going because the future depends on it." Then came an unexpected breakthrough. A coalition of environmental groups, labor unions, and tech companies publicly endorsed Helix, framing it as a bridge between green innovation and economic opportunity. This alliance shifted the narrative and attracted media attention worldwide. At a press conference, Maya announced a new initiative, the Helix Fellowship, a program to train engineers and entrepreneurs from marginalized communities to lead future projects. The announcement was met with applause and renewed hope. Yet, the political battle reached a boiling point. Lobbyists pushed for emergency legislation to impose strict regulations and licensing requirements designed to stall Helix's deployment. Maya and Elena mobilized their coalition, organizing rallies, petitions, and town halls that drew massive support. In the heat of this conflict, Maya received a personal blow. Her father, once a mentor and inspiration, contacted her with a plea to pause the campaign. He warned that the rapid expansion risked unforeseen consequences, urging caution and reflection. The conversation was painful. Maya grappled with loyalty to her father's cautious legacy and the urgent demand for change she felt in her heart. After long nights of contemplation, she realized that growth required balance, innovation with responsibility, courage with wisdom. She publicly acknowledged her father's concerns and committed to rigorous safety reviews and transparency, strengthening public trust. The movement continued to surge, growing smarter and more inclusive. In a landmark vote, Congress approved funding for a nationwide Helix pilot program, signaling a historic shift in energy policy. Maya stood at the podium in the Capitol, her voice steady with emotion. This is more than a victory for technology. It is a victory for every community that has been left in the dark. Helix is a promise kept, a promise of power, possibility, and progress for all Americans. As the crowd erupted in applause, Maya knew this was only the beginning. The road ahead would be long and fraught with challenges, but the tide had turned. She had transformed from a lone inventor into a leader of a movement that could reshape industries, communities, and lives. And with every new Helix installation, every policy won, and every life touched, she was reminded why she fought so fiercely, for a future where energy was a right, not a privilege, and where innovation could light the way to a better tomorrow. As the Helix pilot program rolled out across multiple states, Maya's life transformed in ways she never expected. She was no longer just the inventor working in a bunker, she had become a public figure, a symbol of hope, and a target for powerful adversaries. With cameras flashing and microphones thrust in her face at every turn, Maya balanced the weight of leadership with the relentless pressure to deliver results. The stakes had never been higher. The pilot site spanned urban neighborhoods, rural communities, and industrial zones. Each presented unique challenges. In Detroit, where old factories had long been abandoned, Helix was powering new startups and vocational schools, injecting fresh life into the city's battered economy. In Appalachia, where coal mining was fading, Helix provided an alternative source of employment and energy independence. And in Silicon Valley, Helix Labs worked alongside tech giants eager to integrate the core into electric vehicles and smart grids. Maya often traveled between these sites, meeting local leaders, engineers, and families whose lives were changing. She saw firsthand how Helix wasn't just technology, it was a lifeline and a catalyst for transformation. Yet beneath these successes, cracks began to appear. The rapid deployment meant some Helix units were operating in untested environments with unpredictable variables. A few pilot sites experienced minor malfunctions, power fluctuations, overheating, or brief outages. Though quickly addressed, these incidents fueled Aon-backed critics who seized on every problem to question Helix's safety and reliability. Maya's team worked around the clock to analyze the data, improve the designs, and implement stricter monitoring protocols. They brought in experts from academia and industry to review and certify every update, doubling down on transparency to maintain public trust. At a pivotal national conference, Maya presented their findings and reassured the public, innovation carries risk, but we manage that risk with vigilance, science, and accountability. Helix is not just an invention, it's a commitment, to safety, to progress, and to every American who deserves a brighter future. The speech resonated, but the pressure mounted. Meanwhile, Aon's tactics evolved. Behind closed doors, they funneled millions into political campaigns, research to develop competing technologies, and secret lobbying efforts to regain control of the energy market. More disturbingly, Maya received intelligence reports suggesting Aon was quietly acquiring patents and startups that might one day threaten Helix's dominance. Maya knew the battle was no longer just technological but strategic and legal. To fight on multiple fronts, she expanded her team, bringing in sharp legal minds and strategic advisors. Together, they crafted plans to protect intellectual property, counter disinformation, and build coalitions with policymakers and community leaders. One of Maya's most challenging moments came when a prominent news outlet aired a damaging exposé questioning Helix's environmental impact. The report cited anonymous sources claiming that Helix cores released harmful emissions during rare overloads. Maya was blindsided but responded swiftly. Her team produced independent third-party studies proving the claims false. She invited reporters to visit pilot sites, witness the technology firsthand, and speak with the people benefiting from Helix. The media storm subsided, but the experience left Maya wary of the power of perception and misinformation. In the midst of these challenges, Maya found unexpected support from unlikely places. Former energy executives, disillusioned with Aeon's monopolistic practices, reached out offering expertise and insider knowledge. Grassroots organizations partnered with the Helix Fellowship to train a new generation of engineers and activists. Even some Aeon employees quietly expressed hope for change. This growing network of allies bolstered Maya's confidence and resources. At home, Maya's personal life remained a balancing act. Long nights, constant travel, and public scrutiny strained relationships. Yet the support of her closest friends and the memories of her father's vision grounded her. She often reflected on a question she'd posed to herself early in this journey: what's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? The answer was clear: it was the belief that her work mattered, that each step forward brought hope to people who needed it most. One evening, after a particularly grueling day, Maya stood on a rooftop overlooking the city skyline, the glow of Helix-powered lights flickering like stars below. Her phone buzzed, a message from Elena Ortiz, her congressional ally. Big news. The Energy Innovation Act is gaining traction. If it passes, it will provide funding and regulatory support for Helix nationwide. Maya smiled, feeling a surge of hope. But she knew the road ahead was still perilous. Aeon would not relinquish its hold without a fight. The final battle for America's energy future was looming, and Maya was ready. The journey from a lone inventor in a bunker to a leader of a national movement had tested her limits but also revealed her strength. With every challenge, Maya's conviction deepened: Helix was more than a machine, it was a promise that innovation could uplift, unite, and transform a nation. And she would fight to keep that promise alive. The Energy Innovation Act became the lightning rod for the next phase of the Helix movement. As the bill moved through Congress, the tension in Washington was palpable. Lobbyists from Aeon swarmed committee rooms, pressuring lawmakers with veiled threats and promises of campaign funding. Meanwhile, grassroots activists flooded offices with phone calls and letters, demanding progress and change. Maya found herself thrust deeper into the political arena, attending hearings, giving testimony, and briefing policymakers. She quickly learned that technology alone wouldn't win the battle. Navigating the labyrinth of politics required a new kind of resilience and strategy. At one hearing, a senator from Texas grilled her relentlessly. "Ms. Rivera, your Helix system sounds promising, but what guarantees do we have that it won't destabilize the existing grid or lead to unforeseen consequences?" Maya met his gaze steadily. "Senator, Helix is designed to integrate seamlessly with current infrastructure. We've conducted rigorous stress tests and real-world pilots showing it enhances grid stability, reduces outages, and cuts emissions. This is about complementing, not disrupting, the energy ecosystem." The senator nodded but pressed on, reflecting the skepticism many held. Behind the scenes, Maya's team coordinated with Elena Ortiz and a bipartisan coalition to build broad support. They engaged union leaders, environmental advocates, small business owners, and tech innovators, creating a coalition that transcended traditional divides. The bill's progress was a testament to this unity. Yet, the political pressure also exposed fractures. Some lawmakers who initially backed the bill started wavering under Aeon's influence. Maya had to quickly recalibrate, reaching out with data, personal stories from pilot sites, and community endorsements to shore up wavering votes. The media spotlight intensified. National news outlets ran profiles of Maya, often portraying her as a visionary savior or a reckless disruptor, depending on their sponsors. The polarized coverage weighed heavily, but Maya leaned on her team and supporters, remembering the faces of those who relied on Helix. One day, an unexpected challenge emerged. A prominent academic published a study questioning the long-term durability of Helix cores in extreme weather conditions. The report caused a stir among investors and politicians alike. Maya invited the author to visit their test labs and pilot sites. After an extensive review, the academic publicly revised her conclusions, praising Helix's rapid innovation and commitment to addressing concerns. The incident highlighted the importance of transparency and engagement with critics, a lesson Maya took to heart. Meanwhile, on the ground, Helix deployments expanded into new sectors. Agricultural communities in California used Helix-powered sensors and automation to optimize irrigation and reduce water waste. In manufacturing hubs across the Midwest, Helix cores enabled factories to operate cleaner and more efficiently, attracting new businesses and jobs. These successes helped shift public opinion, making it harder for Aon to maintain its stranglehold. But Aon was not idle. They launched a high-profile counteroffensive, unveiling a competing, next-generation energy technology with flashy marketing but unproven results. The move was designed to confuse investors and policymakers, buying Aon time to stifle Helix's rise. Maya responded by emphasizing Helix's proven impact and the strength of its growing community. At a national tech expo, she demonstrated a live Helix-powered grid segment, showcasing real-time data and community testimonials. The presentation drew widespread acclaim, reinforcing the movement's legitimacy. Yet, beneath the public victories, Maya grappled with internal tensions. Differences in strategy and priorities occasionally surfaced within her team. Some urged aggressive expansion, risking overextension, while others advocated caution and consolidation. Maya worked to balance these views, fostering open dialogue and shared purpose. During a quiet moment, she reflected on her father's words about responsibility and the need to temper ambition with care. Those lessons helped guide her leadership. As the Energy Innovation Act neared its final vote, the stakes reached a fever pitch. A secret leak revealed Aon's plans to deploy a massive lobbying campaign targeting undecided lawmakers with tailored incentives and disinformation. Maya and Elena coordinated rapid response teams, mobilizing supporters and exposing the tactics to the public. The resulting backlash created political fallout for Aon, undermining their efforts. Finally, the day of the vote arrived. Maya stood outside the Capitol with thousands of supporters, media, and activists. The atmosphere was electric with anticipation and hope. As the roll call began, Maya's phone buzzed with updates from inside the chambers. One by one, votes came in, yes, no, abstain, each tally shifting the balance. When the final count was announced, the Energy Innovation Act passed by a narrow but decisive margin. Cheers erupted from the crowd. Maya felt a rush of relief and pride, tempered by the knowledge that real work was just beginning. The bill provided critical funding for Helix expansion, regulatory reforms, and workforce training programs, laying the foundation for a new energy era. In the following weeks, Maya toured newly funded pilot projects, witnessing firsthand how the Act's provisions translated into tangible benefits. She met families saved from blackout hardships, entrepreneurs launching clean energy startups, and young engineers inspired to build their futures with Helix. These moments reinforced her conviction and fueled her resolve. Yet, challenges remained. Aon's influence persisted, legal battles continued, and technology needed constant refinement. Maya accepted that the fight for America's energy future was ongoing, a marathon, not a sprint. In quiet moments, she often revisited the question that had propelled her journey: what's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? The answer remained the same: the belief that innovation, courage, and community could change the world. With the Energy Innovation Act as a turning point, Maya prepared to lead Helix into its next chapter. One of growth, resilience, and the relentless pursuit of a better tomorrow for all Americans. The passage of the Energy Innovation Act ignited a surge of activity that felt both exhilarating and overwhelming. Maya's team was suddenly managing a flood of new projects, partnerships, and public inquiries. The resources were there, but so were the expectations. Helix was no longer a promising prototype or a pilot program, it was becoming the backbone of America's future energy landscape. Maya traveled tirelessly from coast to coast, attending ribbon-cutting ceremonies, technology demonstrations, and community forums. Everywhere she went, she saw the human face of the revolution: families who could finally afford electricity, workers retraining for new green jobs, and entrepreneurs building startups around helix-powered innovations. Yet, the complexity of scaling the technology revealed unforeseen challenges. The miniaturized cores that Tyler had championed encountered durability issues in extreme climates, requiring new materials and design adjustments. Simone's AI algorithms faced unexpected interference in certain rural areas with outdated communication infrastructure, forcing the team to innovate hybrid solutions. Omar's community outreach programs grew rapidly but struggled with logistical bottlenecks as demand outpaced training capacity. Maya realized that growth demanded not only innovation but coordination, communication, and constant adaptation. To tackle these hurdles, she established regional centers of excellence. Hubs that combined research, training, and deployment capabilities tailored to local conditions. These centers became incubators for solutions developed with direct input from the communities they served. One such center in New Orleans pioneered helix-powered flood monitoring and emergency response systems, proving vital during hurricane season. Another in Phoenix developed solar helix hybrids to optimize energy output in desert environments. As the technology matured, new industries emerged. Helix-powered electric vehicles rolled out with unprecedented range and efficiency, thanks to lightweight, portable cores that charged quickly and lasted longer. Manufacturing plants retrofitted with helix systems saw dramatic drops in emissions and energy costs, attracting global attention. Maya's leadership evolved to encompass not only invention and advocacy but also diplomacy and management. She hired experienced executives to oversee operations and legal affairs, allowing her to focus on vision and innovation. Despite the demanding schedule, she remained grounded by the relationships she built with frontline workers, engineers, and families. One moment stood out vividly: a visit to a rural town in West Virginia, once devastated by coal industry decline. Maya met with a group of miners who had lost their jobs but were now being retrained as helix technicians and installers. Their pride and hope were palpable. One man, Jack, shared his story: "I never thought I'd see a future here again. Helix gave us more than work, it gave us purpose." The experience underscored the broader social impact of the invention, fueling Maya's determination to ensure Helix was inclusive and just. Yet, Aeon's shadow loomed persistently. Despite setbacks, they continued to innovate behind the scenes, quietly launching pilot projects of their own, clean energy solutions, though none matched Helix's efficiency or community reach. Legal battles over patents and market rights dragged on, straining resources and focus. In response, Maya's team deepened collaborations with universities, nonprofits, and government agencies to create a network of shared knowledge and support that was hard for Aeon to penetrate. The media landscape remained a battlefield. Aeon-backed outlets published skeptical articles and op-eds questioning Helix's long-term viability, while independent journalists and advocates highlighted its transformative potential. Maya learned the power of storytelling, not just through data and technology but through personal narratives that connected emotionally with audiences. She encouraged team members and Helix beneficiaries to share their journeys openly. One viral video featured a single mother in Detroit explaining how Helix-powered electricity allowed her children to study late and pursue their dreams. Another showcased a startup founder in Austin whose business flourished thanks to reliable energy. These stories countered misinformation and humanized the movement. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, Maya wrestled with the weight of expectations. The spotlight brought scrutiny to her decisions and personal life. Media outlets speculated about her relationships and leadership style. Social media could be unforgiving. To cope, Maya leaned on her core team, including Elena Ortiz, whose unwavering friendship and political savvy were invaluable. She also reconnected with her father, whose cautious wisdom offered perspective and reassurance. One evening, after a long day, Maya found herself reflecting on how far she'd come. From a determined inventor in a cluttered lab to a national leader driving a movement, the journey was marked by trials, triumphs, and growth. She understood that the true test was yet to come, not just technical breakthroughs, but sustaining a vision that balanced innovation with responsibility, ambition with empathy. The next phase of Helix's evolution involved global partnerships. International governments and organizations expressed interest in adapting the technology to their own energy needs. Maya's team navigated complex negotiations to ensure ethical deployment and knowledge sharing without compromising American leadership and values. The international dimension added layers of complexity and opportunity. As Helix expanded beyond borders, Maya grappled with questions about equity, environmental impact, and cultural sensitivity. Could the technology empower communities worldwide without replicating the mistakes of past industrial revolutions? These reflections deepened her resolve to prioritize inclusivity and sustainability in every decision. Back in the U.S., the Helix Fellowship blossomed into a national program that nurtured diverse talent across science, technology, engineering, and entrepreneurship. Graduates became ambassadors and innovators, spreading Helix's benefits and ideals. Maya often spoke at their conferences, inspiring the next generation. Yet, the work was far from done. Infrastructure challenges, regulatory hurdles, and Aeon's persistent interference meant constant vigilance was essential. Maya knew that every success had to be defended and expanded thoughtfully. As she prepared for the upcoming National Energy Summit, Maya felt a renewed sense of purpose. The summit would be an opportunity to showcase Helix's progress, forge new alliances, and confront emerging threats. She reviewed the agenda, strategized with her team, and practiced her speeches. In quiet moments, she revisited the question that had fueled her journey: what's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? The answer remained steadfast: a commitment to a future where energy was a right, not a privilege, where innovation lifted lives and united communities, where every challenge was met with hope and determination. Maya smiled, knowing the path ahead would be difficult, but confident that with every Helix core deployed and every life touched, they were building a better tomorrow, one powered by courage, creativity, and the unwavering belief in progress. The National Energy Summit was a defining moment for Maya and the Helix project. The event drew an unprecedented gathering of policymakers, industry leaders, scientists, and activists from across the country and around the world. The stakes were high. This summit would not only showcase Helix's accomplishments but also shape the future direction of American energy policy for decades. Maya's preparations were meticulous. Every speech, presentation, and meeting was designed to highlight Helix's potential to transform industries, empower communities, and address climate change. Yet, beneath the excitement, Maya felt a familiar undercurrent of tension. Aeon representatives were present, their smiles polished but eyes sharp with calculation. Their presence was a reminder that the battle for America's energy future was far from over. The opening day began with keynote addresses from prominent senators and environmental advocates who lauded the potential of clean energy technologies. When Maya stepped onto the stage, the room quieted. She opened with a story from a small town in Pennsylvania, where Helix-powered grids had ended chronic blackouts and sparked a wave of new businesses. Her words painted vivid pictures of hope, resilience, and innovation, striking an emotional chord with the audience. The demonstration that followed was nothing short of spectacular. Live data streamed on giant screens, showing Helix cores powering diverse applications, from electric vehicles to smart homes to industrial plants. Testimonials from beneficiaries played on loop, reinforcing the human impact. Maya's presentation ended with a bold challenge: our future depends on choices we make today. Helix is not just technology, it's a movement. Together, we can build an energy system that is clean, reliable, and just. Let's seize this moment. The applause was thunderous. Backstage, Maya met with international delegates eager to explore collaborations. Negotiations began for joint research projects and pilot programs abroad, expanding Helix's influence beyond American borders. Yet, the summit also revealed cracks in the energy landscape. During a panel discussion, a veteran industry executive voiced concerns about the costs of rapid Helix adoption and potential disruptions to established supply chains. Others questioned whether communities reliant on traditional energy jobs would be left behind. Maya welcomed the critiques, viewing them as opportunities for dialogue and growth. She emphasized Helix's commitment to workforce development, equitable access, and transitional support for affected industries. The conversations underscored the complexity of energy transformation, balancing innovation with social responsibility. Meanwhile, Aeon's delegation launched a subtle counteroffensive. They organized side events promoting their alternative technologies, sponsored lavish receptions, and sought to sow doubt about Helix's scalability. Maya's team monitored these efforts carefully, preparing fact-based responses and reinforcing their coalition's messaging. On the summit's final day, a surprise announcement added drama. The Department of Energy unveiled a new funding initiative prioritizing Helix-related projects, signaling strong federal endorsement. The announcement was a strategic victory, boosting morale and sending a clear message to skeptics. As the summit concluded, Maya reflected on the journey. The event had been both a celebration and a battleground, highlighting Helix's achievements and the challenges ahead. The movement had grown beyond a technology, it was a national imperative. Returning home, Maya found herself reinvigorated but aware of the long road still to travel. She focused on deepening community partnerships, enhancing training programs, and accelerating technological refinements. One of the most rewarding moments came during a visit to a formerly struggling factory in Ohio, now revitalized with Helix-powered machinery. The plant manager, Linda, described how the transformation had saved hundreds of jobs and improved working conditions. "This isn't just about energy," Linda said. "It's about people's lives." That sentiment resonated deeply with Maya. Yet, Aeon's resistance persisted. Legal challenges intensified, claiming patent infringement and regulatory violations. Maya's legal team fought back vigorously, confident in their position but aware of the toll. The dispute was a stark reminder that innovation often came with conflict. Amid these pressures, Maya found solace in the Helix Fellowship, where young engineers and activists brought fresh energy and ideas. Their passion and optimism reminded her why she had embarked on this journey. Together, they planned community outreach initiatives, educational programs, and innovation contests to inspire and engage the next generation. As Helix's footprint expanded, so did the stories of transformation, families gaining access to clean energy, towns rebuilding their economies, entrepreneurs launching ventures that would have seemed impossible before. Maya collected these stories, sharing them widely to build momentum and hope. In quiet moments, she revisited the question that had guided her: what's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? The answer was clear: the belief that technology, when guided by empathy and purpose, could change lives. With that conviction, Maya looked toward the future. The challenges were formidable, but so was the potential. Helix was not just an invention, it was a beacon of possibility, lighting the way toward a more sustainable and equitable America. The momentum from the National Energy Summit propelled Helix into a new phase of rapid expansion and innovation, but with growth came complexity. Maya found herself balancing the excitement of new opportunities with the challenges of managing a vast and diverse coalition of stakeholders. One morning, as she reviewed reports from the field, a call came from Dr. Tyler Grant, the lead engineer who had designed the Helix cores. Tyler's voice was tense. "Maya, we've got an issue. Some of the newer cores deployed in the Midwest are showing signs of accelerated wear, especially in areas with fluctuating temperatures and heavy industrial activity." This was a serious concern. The Helix cores were the heart of the system, and any hint of failure risked undermining public confidence and regulatory support. Maya immediately convened a task force, bringing together engineers, materials scientists, and field technicians. The investigation revealed that a rare form of thermal cycling stress was causing microfractures in the core's composite layers. It was a problem that hadn't appeared in earlier, more controlled tests but emerged at scale and in harsher conditions. The team worked around the clock to develop a solution. Tyler proposed experimenting with new alloys and layered insulation to enhance durability without sacrificing efficiency. Meanwhile, Maya communicated transparently with stakeholders, releasing statements acknowledging the issue and outlining steps to address it. She knew that trust was fragile and that openness was essential. While the technical team labored on the cores, Maya focused on maintaining the project's broader momentum. She visited impacted sites in Indiana and Ohio, meeting with local leaders and residents. In one factory, she met Maria, a single mother whose job as a Helix technician was her lifeline. Maria expressed concern but also confidence in the team's ability to fix the problem. "We believe in this," she said. "It's not perfect yet, but it's worth fighting for." Those words resonated deeply with Maya. The crisis underscored the reality that innovation was a continuous process, requiring resilience and humility. It also highlighted the human dimension, the workers, families, and communities who depended on Helix's success. As the team tested new core prototypes, another challenge emerged on a different front. A coalition of traditional energy companies launched a coordinated disinformation campaign, spreading false claims about Helix's safety and environmental impact. Social media became a battleground, with viral posts and misleading videos eroding public support in some regions. Maya knew that facts alone wouldn't be enough to counteract the emotional power of misinformation. She turned to storytelling. Maya and her communications director developed a campaign featuring real voices from Helix communities, teachers, farmers, factory workers, sharing their experiences and hopes. The campaign emphasized transparency, community, and shared values, building a narrative that facts could not easily dismantle. The response was powerful. Stories of resilience and transformation flooded in, creating a groundswell of grassroots support. Volunteers organized local forums, schools included Helix in their science curricula, and social media influencers amplified the message. The narrative shifted from fear to hope. In the midst of this, Maya found a surprising ally. Dr. Elena Ortiz, the seasoned policy advisor, brokered a quiet but strategic partnership with a former executive from one of the traditional energy firms who had grown disillusioned with the industry's resistance to change. The executive, Mark Thompson, brought insider knowledge and credibility, helping Maya's team anticipate opposition tactics and develop more effective outreach strategies. With Mark's insights, Helix refined its regulatory approach, accelerating approvals and enhancing compliance. The dual challenges of technical refinement and public perception stretched Maya's leadership in new ways. She learned to delegate more, trusting her team's expertise while focusing on vision and advocacy. Late nights were common, but so were moments of unexpected joy, like a letter from a young student inspired to pursue engineering, or a community event celebrating a new Helix-powered school. As the new and improved cores passed rigorous testing, plans were made for a phased rollout to replace the vulnerable units. This process required careful coordination to minimize disruption and maximize communication. Maya coordinated with local officials, ensuring technicians were trained and communities informed. The rollout became a symbol of Helix's commitment to quality and accountability. By the time the last of the upgraded cores was installed, confidence had largely returned. Investors renewed their support, and policymakers praised the transparent handling of the crisis. Maya reflected on the experience as a defining chapter, proof that innovation was not linear but a journey marked by setbacks, learning, and growth. Outside the technical and political arenas, Maya's personal life was evolving as well. The relentless pace and spotlight weighed heavily, but she found balance through connections with friends, family, and mentors. A weekend retreat organized by the Helix Fellowship provided a much-needed reset. Maya listened as young fellows shared their dreams and challenges, reminding her of the power of community and shared purpose. One evening, under a starlit sky, Maya spoke candidly about the ups and downs of leadership. "This journey is about more than technology," she said. "It's about courage, persistence, and the belief that we can build something better, not just for ourselves, but for generations to come." The retreat reignited Maya's passion and resolve. Returning to work, she embraced new initiatives focused on sustainability and equity. Helix began partnering with environmental justice groups to ensure that disadvantaged communities benefited from the technology. Training programs expanded to include scholarships and mentorships for underrepresented groups in STEM fields. Maya's vision of an inclusive energy future was becoming reality. Meanwhile, Aeon's attacks grew more desperate but less effective. Public opinion had shifted decisively in favor of Helix, and legal challenges were losing ground. The contrast between Aeon's resistance and Helix's transparency became a defining narrative. As the year drew to a close, Maya convened her leadership team for a strategy retreat. They reviewed accomplishments, lessons learned, and future goals. The mood was cautiously optimistic. The foundation was solid, but the next steps would require continued innovation, collaboration, and vigilance. Maya closed the meeting with a reminder of the question that had guided her from the beginning: what's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? The room was silent for a moment before the team responded in unison. Belief in a better future. With that shared commitment, they prepared to face whatever challenges lay ahead, united by a vision that had grown from a single invention into a transformative movement, one that promised to change industries, empower communities, and reshape America's destiny. The dawn of the next year brought new challenges and opportunities as Helix technology continued to reshape industries across America. Maya was increasingly aware that the revolution she was leading was no longer about a single invention but about fostering an entire ecosystem of innovation, collaboration, and social change. The rise of Helix-powered systems had started to ripple through sectors beyond energy, transportation, healthcare, agriculture, and even education. One of the most promising developments came from a partnership with a leading electric vehicle manufacturer eager to integrate Helix cores into their next generation of cars. These vehicles promised to revolutionize mobility with longer ranges, faster charging, and dramatically lower emissions. Maya met with the engineers and designers at the company's Detroit plant, where the hum of assembly lines blended with the excitement of innovation. She saw firsthand how Helix technology was enabling breakthroughs in battery design and power management. "This changes everything," said Carlos, the chief engineer. "Helix lets us think beyond traditional constraints." At the same time, Maya's team was collaborating with agricultural innovators in California's Central Valley to develop Helix-powered irrigation and monitoring systems. The region, long challenged by drought and resource scarcity, was an ideal proving ground. Using Helix cores, farmers could run sensors and automated pumps efficiently, conserving water and improving crop yields. Maya visited a vineyard where precision irrigation was already making a difference. The owner, Anna, spoke passionately about the potential: "We're not just saving water, we're securing our future." Healthcare applications were also emerging. Portable Helix-powered devices were providing reliable energy for remote clinics and emergency responders, especially in underserved rural areas. Maya met a nurse practitioner in Appalachia who used the technology to power life-saving equipment during winter storms when the grid was down. The stories reinforced the deep human impact of the invention. Amid this rapid expansion, Maya faced the complexity of managing partnerships across diverse sectors. Each collaboration required tailored approaches, technical adaptations, and careful negotiation to align goals and values. To address this, she established a cross-disciplinary innovation council, bringing together experts from industry, academia, government, and community organizations. The council served as a think tank and advisory board, fostering dialogue and coordinating strategies. One early challenge the council tackled was the regulatory maze. Different states had varying policies on energy, transportation, and environmental standards, complicating Helix's deployment. Maya led efforts to work with lawmakers and regulators to harmonize frameworks and promote policies that supported sustainable innovation. This required patience, diplomacy, and persistence, but progress was steady. Public engagement remained a cornerstone of the project's success. Maya's team expanded community programs, including workshops, school partnerships, and innovation challenges designed to inspire and educate. The Helix Fellowship grew, attracting young talent eager to contribute to a cleaner, smarter future. Maya found particular joy in mentoring these fellows, whose fresh ideas and enthusiasm reinvigorated her. Yet, not everything was smooth. As Helix's influence expanded, so did scrutiny and opposition. A coalition of labor unions raised concerns about job displacement, demanding assurances and protections for workers in traditional energy sectors. Maya welcomed these conversations, recognizing the need for inclusive transition plans that honored workers' dignity and livelihoods. In response, Helix partnered with workforce development organizations to create retraining programs and new job opportunities. The challenge was to balance rapid technological progress with social equity. Environmental groups also weighed in, advocating for rigorous standards and accountability to ensure Helix's deployment minimized ecological impacts. Maya engaged these groups as partners, integrating their feedback into design and implementation processes. Transparency and collaboration became guiding principles. Politically, the landscape was dynamic. Some elected officials championed Helix as a cornerstone of economic and environmental policy, while others remained skeptical or aligned with traditional energy interests. Maya navigated these currents with Elena Ortiz's expert guidance, building bipartisan coalitions that underscored Helix's broad appeal and potential. Behind the scenes, Maya and her leadership team planned the next wave of innovation. They explored advances in AI integration, materials science, and decentralized energy networks to enhance Helix's capabilities and accessibility. These developments promise to keep the technology at the cutting edge, sustaining competitive advantage and societal impact. Throughout these efforts, Maya remained grounded by her personal connections. Family moments, though scarce, were cherished. Conversations with her father provided perspective and reassurance, reminding her of the values that had fueled her journey. Friendships with colleagues and mentors offered support and camaraderie. Maya also maintained a journal, a private space to reflect on challenges, triumphs, and lessons learned. One entry captured her evolving philosophy: innovation is not just about creating new tools, but about nurturing hope, resilience, and community. The true power of Helix lies in its ability to unite us. As Helix continued to transform industries and communities, Maya contemplated the future with cautious optimism. She understood that technology alone could not solve society's deepest problems, but believed that when combined with empathy, vision, and collaboration, it could be a catalyst for profound change. The question that had propelled her from the start, "What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough?" remained a touchstone. For Maya, the answer was the conviction that every challenge was an opportunity to build a better tomorrow. With this guiding light, she prepared to lead Helix into its next chapter, confident that the journey would continue to inspire, challenge, and transform. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough?